The nursery hummed like a weak heart. A thin electric tremor lived in the baby monitor, a silver coin of sound pressed to the dark. Rain shouldered the windows in steady sheets. The house had been built to smother weather triple pane. Soundproof doors, thick rugs, but the storm found seam, a damp breath threading through the old vents and across the floor. Maya Reyes kept her shoes by the threshold, and her weight low, bare soles on oak, cool grain against skin. She swayed with the child so slowly, the motion almost disappeared. In her arms, Lily heated the center of everything, milk-sweet breath. Damp curls stuck to a forehead the size of her palm. Each small sob hitched, then folded into the next until, at last, the ribs softened and the small mouth fell open. "Easy," Maya whispered. "I've got you." The monitor's light pulsed once, twice, like a lighthouse too far away to help. A draft slipped under the door and licked her ankles. The blackout curtain bowed and sighed. Somewhere beyond the nursery, deeper in the house, a grandfather clock pushed its weight around and clicked into the next minute. The door blew open like a slapped tray. Ethan Grayson filled the frame. Suit jacket dark with rain, tie crooked, as if it had argued with his throat and lost. He didn't look at Maya first. He looked at the child, as if counting fingers. His eyes were a gray that usually read as cool, but tonight they were wired, bright from not sleeping. "What do you think you're doing?" The words came out in shards. Maya didn't flinch. She tightened the crook of her arm, stepped back from the draft, kept swaying. Lily stirred. The first tremor under skin before crying finds its voice. She was gagging on the last cry. Maya said, "If I put her down, give her to me." He was already moving. "You don't took your staff. You don't." The sentence broke on his own breath. Rage had outrun reason, and for a second, all that showed was panic. Maya shifted her stance, heel to arch, a soft pivot to keep the rhythm. She had learned this balance long before this house. Subway cars, shelter mats, the back seat of a church van. When the driver braked late and all the babies rolled, "Sir," she said, calm as a steady pulse. She just fell. He reached anyway. The suit wool rasped her forearm, fingers expensive fingers, manicured, containing 3 generations of money, closed around Lily's middle and pride. The baby's body knew the change before her brain did. Her shoulder blades stiffened. Her mouth bloomed red. Then the cry arrived in air raid, point blank so sharp. Maya tasted metal. Hey, Ethan said, rocking wrong. Breath, shallow. "It's okay. Lily, Daddy's here." The child bucked against him like a trout against a line. Maya set her feet. The floor telegraphed every shift, the tiny bounce of his knee, the tiny scratch of a leather sole, the tiny tremble of a man trying not to break. She angled her body between the crib and the window. "You're scaring her," she said, not loud, not soft. "You are." His jaw clicked. The rain reared at the glass. The monitor hummed on, as indifferent as a star. He looked from Lily's scrunched face to Maya's. Something flashed: confusion, humiliation, a boyhood reflex to snatch back a toy, and then bled into something heavier. "Give her back," Maya said. The words were clean, no edge, no playa. She didn't shift her gaze. Ethan's shoulder dropped first. The rest followed. He surrendered the baby, the way men surrender bad news, as if it might explode on the way out of their hands. Lily folded into Maya's chest with a shudder of relief, arms tucked in, knees curled up, a fist wedged under her chin. The crying cut off by degrees, as if someone was sliding a dimmer switch. Breath, hiccup, breath, quiet. Maya sank to the rug, cross-legged, back against the side of the rocking chair. The floor was warmer here. the heat rising from a vent she could never find in daylight. She rocked her hips a fraction at a time, enough to give the little body a tide to ride. Her head touched the wall, paint cool against hair. She hummed without melody. "I've got you," she said into the curls, all the way. Ethan stood where he was. The rain drew a vertical river behind him. His hands hung. He looked like a man who had run to the edge of a roof and stopped in time to see how far it was down. "She only sleeps if I hold her," Maya said. After the room had listened to the hush, crib sets her off. Happens to some. "How long?" he asked. 40 minutes. Sometimes an hour. He rubbed two fingers together as if measuring thread. "You can't keep. There are policies." "Then write new ones." His laugh arrived ugly, then died. The monitor flickered again. The hum softened, or maybe the storm grew louder, swallowing it. Her pediatrician said colic. He said, looking at the ceiling, as if answers lived in molding, said to let her cry it out. "Some babies think quiet is a trap." Maya said, "Maybe the womb was loud. Maybe the house is wrong. I don't know. I know my hands were." He stared at those hands. The skin was small, scarred, and clean. The cuticle on the right ring finger had been chewed into a crescent. The nails were short. She'd trimmed them with kitchen scissors at lunch. "This is not," he stopped. A swallow worked in his throat. "It's not your job to hold a baby." She tipped her head a half-inch. "What do you think you hired me for?" His mouth moved. No language came out. He was a man made of statements. Questions sat crooked in his chest. Lily sighed in the kind of sleep that forgives. Down the hallway, someone passed and paused. A brush of nylon on plaster. The house kept its secrets professionally. Maya felt the pause, enter the room and exit again. "I don't want," he said finally, each word set down like a heavy glass. "Any more attachments." "To who?" Maya asked. "Me or her?" He looked at the baby like a horizon he couldn't get to. "Both." Maya kept her voice steady. "She doesn't care about your calendar. She cares that her heart can hear another heart. You can't outsource that." Something in him wanted to fight. Money was good at that. So was loneliness. "You know," she added, almost to herself, "when you stand in doorways like that, you block heat. Room drops a degree." He glanced back. Automatic. Stepped aside. Warmth rolled in. Felt. Not seen. The monitor's hum lifted a little. Or maybe she imagined it. "My mother used to say that," he said, softer, "about me and doorways. You listened." "No." He let out a breath that fogged the window. "I hear it now. They stayed like that. Strangers marooned on two ends of the same thin floor." The rain's tempo shifted. Somewhere it found a new gutter to drum. After a time, Lily's weight settled into that heavy, full sleep that only babies and old men manage. Maya slid a finger under a damp curl to keep it from gluing to skin. She didn't look up when she spoke. "You said some things when you came in." "Yes." "They were wrong." "Yes." "Say you're sorry." He blinked once, twice. The part of him trained to say the correct thing woke up, took a step forward, and then, surprisingly, didn't speak. The rest of him, a man who had carried a human out of a delivery room and then lost the next year inside a wall of glass, found its voice. "I'm sorry," he said, "not because it plays well, because I said them. My unodit." The apology landed on the floorboards between them. Solid. Visible. The house took it in. The rain kept counting. "You can go," she said, not unkind. "She's down." He didn't move. "Will she wake if you breathe too loud?" "No." "If you stress about it?" "Yes." A corner of his mouth lifted. It was the first time his face remembered he could be anything other than a fire alarm. "Okay," he said. He looked at the rug as if it had instructions woven in. "Okay." He left without closing the door. The air adjusted. The hum rounded its edges. In the near distance, The clock pushed again, a shoulder against time. Maya stayed on the floor until the bones in her hips began to complain. She could have put Lily down then. Maybe. She didn't. She knew the gamble one drifted sigh could turn the room back into a siren, and then they'd start at minute one again. She took the softer loss. Her legs would go to pins, her back would wake screaming at 3 a.m., but the baby's breath stayed even. Choice made. She let her head tilt back and scanned the ceiling where hairline cracks ran like pale rivers between paint and plaster. It wasn't an old house, but even new places learn how to fail. She tracked one crack to a corner where the wall met the frame of the blackout curtain. A spider had tied a bright piece of dust into its web. The thread was finer than hair. It vibrated at the same pitch as the monitor. "I see you," she murmured into the baby's hair. "Working." The room breathed around them. The storm pulled away in inches. A far siren braided into the city's late night. She could smell rain cold off the glass and talc warm off the child. Her own sweat cooled and made a map down her spine. Later minutes or hours, it was the same currency in the dark footsteps returned, not the hard, practiced tap of a man who had a building's worth of doors to push through. Softer. A set of rubber clogs stopped at the threshold. Mrs. Delaney, the house manager, didn't lean in. She pinned her voice to the hinge. "She only sleeps with you," the older woman said, as if the sentence had complained its way down the hallway and found a mouth. "Tonight," Maya said, a pause, the kind that tests what a room is made of. "You're not the first to think you can fix a Grayson," Mrs. Delaney said. There was no heat on it, just weather. "You may be the first to fix the house." Maya didn't answer. She didn't own a word for that. She had a sleeping child, a humming box, a floor. When the clogs faded, Maya angled her neck and looked at the monitor. A green dot blinked and blinked. When Lily's chest rose, the dot seemed to time itself to the small lift of fabric. Maybe it was only her eyes wanting order. Maybe it was real. It didn't matter. The room had a rhythm now. They could ride it until morning. Her legs had gone numb from mid-thigh down. She smiled into the dark. "Hazard pay," she told the sleeping girl. "I'll put in for it." The joke was small and unshared, and just enough to make the air ease by a notch. The baby's hand opened. The fingers loosened and lay across Maya's collarbone. Like a claim, outside, the rain thinned to a fine hiss. Inside, the hum held. On the floor, Maya stayed. Morning came and pieces steam on the bathroom mirror. The clack of radiators waking. The coffee machine grinding like gravel in a tin. The storm had rinsed the city. Sun hit the east windows hard enough to make the dust honest. Maya folded the blanket she'd used as a shield against the nursery floor and set it square on the rocking chair arm. Her feet remembered the vents and the boards that squeaked. The house had a map. You could only learn by staying quiet. Downstairs, someone tuned a classical station and let the strings warm the air. In the kitchen, Mrs. Delaney already had the stove going. Butter hissed. A whisk flashed wrist and egg into silk. She glanced up and didn't bother to hide the reed eyes to hands to posture, quick as a nurse checking vitals. "You look like the floor kept you," she said. "It did what it could," Maya said. "We're on speaking terms." A corner of Delaney's mouth lifted. She slid a plate onto the marble and tapped the fork like a metronome. "Eat before he wanders in and forgets how." Maya wasn't hungry until the first bite. Then she was. Salt, fat, hot bread. The room smelled like coffee and orange peel and the expensive candle someone always forgot to blow out. Ethan arrived with the look of a man who had showered but not slept. Fresh shirt, wrong tie. He hesitated in the doorway like he remembered last night in the frame. The way his body remembered a cliff. His eyes found Maya's, then moved politely to the sink. "Morning," he said to the faucet. His voice had sand in it. "Morning," Maya said. Mrs. Delaney didn't say anything. She set a cup down by his elbow and left the room with the silence of a person who knew when to take her knowledge elsewhere. He buttered toast like a man translating a new language. The knife left a clean stripe, then doubled back, unsure. "Did she's fine," Maya said. "She'll be up in 10. She'll need another hour at 9. He nodded. He didn't ask how she knew. People never asked how you knew when you were right. They just acted like it had always been obvious. The phone on the island vibrated against the stone. He glanced at the screen and turned it face down. Bad habit. He picked it up anyway, stepped to the pantry doorway, and let it ring twice more before answering. "I told you not this week," he said. The pantry door stayed open. Pine cleaner and dry goods breathed out. "No, Mirabelle. I'm not doing a dinner. We're not. No, we're not anything." A pause while the person on the other end said, the kind of thing people said when they thought money guaranteed returns, "Because I have a daughter who doesn't sleep unless the person I insulted most holds her," he said, low. "And I'm trying to figure out how to be a father without breaking anything else." Maya set her fork down. She hadn't meant to listen. The house made eavesdroppers. Sound slipped like light under doors. And truth came out when people didn't perform for a room. He caught her gaze across the counter when he turned. He didn't look away. He ended the call with the kind of precise swipe you save for cutting fruit. "I wasn't," he started. "You were," she said. He laughed once. It sounded like a cough that didn't commit. "I deserved that." Maya rinsed her plate. She didn't narrate mercy. The disposal snarled and swallowed. A small, useful violence. They were interrupted by a knock that wasn't a knock. Two soft taps, and then the door to the butler's hallway easing open. Rosa, the house's day nurse, slid in sideways, a habit learned from years of entering rooms without startling what slept. "Lily's awake," she said, eyes warm, big smile, no siren. Ethan stood a little straighter. The hit landed full in the chest. He held it. Maya dreed her hands. "I'll go." "Wait," he said. He rubbed a thumb along the seam of his coffee cup, like he needed texture to push words through. "About last night." She looked at the seam, too. It had a hairline crack. She had never noticed it. "You already said it." "I want to say it with context." He grimaced, catching himself before the corporate word finished. "With honesty." She folded the towel. He took that as permission. "I was told," he said, picking each word like he didn't trust his own tongue, "that proximity is charity you can measure and then be done with. Checks, boards, statements. Neat. Then you walked in with a human being in your arms. And you didn't ask me how my company aligned with your values. You just fixed what was breaking." She watched his face. He meant it, but the sentence had built-in defenses earned, practiced. This was a man who could capture a room with an apology and never change. She needed fewer rooms captured, and one crib quiet. "Don't say the right thing," she said. "Do the right thing." He nodded once, as if that line had been waiting for him to hear it long enough that it arrived pre-underlined. Upstairs, Lily let loose a squeak that might, given 3 seconds, become a storm. Maya's feet moved before the air finished carrying the sound. Ethan followed. The three of them ended up in the nursery before the squeak remembered it could become anything else. Lily was on her back, socks half off, hair defying gravity. When she saw Maya, she stilled. The stillness felt like a decision. Then she smiled with her whole face in a way that made you understand why evolution bothered with babies at all. Maya scooped her and pressed her ear to the honey-slow thud of the small heart. She felt the child's breath recalibrate in her arms. Too quick. One long. Repeat. She could have set a metronome to it. She had in other houses. Ethan leaned on the doorframe, careful to leave heat for the room. He didn't reach. He watched. His hands, empty, found each other. "What do I do?" he asked. "Start with holding," Maya said, "then learn the rest." He took Lily with both hands, as if accepting an oath. His shoulders rose, then dropped. He matched her breath without meaning to. He swayed wrong at first, then right. "You're allowed to hum," Maya said. "You won't break a song." He smiled with the top half of his face, the part that got less use. He tried a sound. It wasn't a melody. It was a human-making room inside himself. They lasted 7 minutes before the baby got bored and launched into the next demand: milk. Light, the texture of a finger, something. Rosa brought a bottle. Maya adjusted the room's light. Ethan offered his index knuckle. It wasn't pretty, but it was a conspiracy of care, and sometimes that's the only thing that works. The day shifted into errands you don't see on calendars. Laundry that smelled faintly of lavender, tiny clothes turned inside out, to hunt for loose tags that chafed. Maya patched a seam in a stuffed fox with thread a shade too dark, and liked the visible mend. She answered a text from a friend with a picture of a baby sock on her shoulder like a new rank. Mid-morning, in the laundry room, warm as a throat, she heard him again, his voice in the half-closed space of his office down the hall. "I read the memo," he said into the phone. "We're not reducing benefits for hourly staff to offset last quarter's miss. We'll fix the miss. A pause. Longer. Colder. Because they work here and eat because of us. Because I said so." The last line landed with the quiet violence of a signature. Maya fed the dryer another basket and pressed her palm flat to the metal to feel the hum. The house vibrated in low agreement. She didn't smile, but the air around her did. Around noon, a visitor arrived, not Mirabelle, not a donor in a coat that cost a mortgage, a man in a charcoal suit that matched his hairline and his intentions. He introduced himself with a card so white it glowed. Victor Ames, Grayson Holdings Risk and Compliance. He did not shake hands with staff. He shook the air near their hands. "Mr. Grayson scheduled?" he asked Delaney. "Mr. Ames," Delaney said, "cool as a church basement in August. He'll see you in the study." He spotted Maya, clocked her as part of the architecture, and filed her as a line item. "New hire." "Living person," Delaney said. Ames blinked. The study swallowed him. Maya passed the study an hour later with Lily on her hip. Voices bled out in flat ribbons. "Our exposure is reputational," Ames was saying. Crisp. "Optics of domestic staff overstepping. There are policies, boundaries. Write me new ones," Ethan said. "Start with the baby." "Optics," Ames repeated, like a man polishing a word. "Reality," Ethan returned. Maya kept moving. She didn't need to win that argument to know where she stood. But later, when Lily slept mouth open and dreaming of milk, she found Delaney in the pantry labeling jars with a Sharpie that made a soft squeak on glass. "He came fast," Maya said. "He lives fast." Delaney said of Ames, "Fast and small. What does he do?" "Reminds people their fear has a budget." "Does he win?" "Only when no one else shows up." The afternoon lengthened and dulled. Clouds moved back in like a decision rescinded. At 3, the elevator opened on the ground floor, and a woman with a perfume that could buy a small car stepped out. She was beautiful, the way magazines teach you to be symmetry and suede. She had a smile sharpened for cameras. "Maya." "Right," she said, as if they'd been in the same classes. "I'm Claire." Maya shifted Lily on her hip. "You have the wrong house." Claire's smile twitched. "I had the right one for years." Delaney appeared without sound. "Ms. Hart, you don't have an appointment. I have history." History doesn't get you a code. Claire looked past them, toward the hall that held memory as currency. I came to see Lily. She's sleeping, Maya said. Then I'll wait. You won't, Delaney said, pleasantly. We'll call. Claire's eyes settled on Maya like a test she hadn't consented to take. You've made yourself very comfortable. I'm holding a child. Maya said, it's not furniture. Claire's smile brightened in the way light does before it blinds you. You're funny, she said, and left a business card, as if she had paid for the air they were breathing. When the doors closed, the room exhaled. Sharp heels for a rainy day, Delaney murmured. Maya slid the card into the junk drawer. The monitor in her pocket let out a soft buzz phantom. Not real. She was starting to hear it even when it wasn't there. The house did that to you. Stitched its hum into your nerves. Until everything else tuned to it. Toward evening, the sky lowered. The first wind rattled a loose vent cover like a tongue against teeth. Maya stood at the window with Lily dozing on her chest and watched the trees argue with the weather. In the glass, she could see her own outline and, behind her, Ethan's, as he came to stand a respectful distance away. Who was she? Maya asked, without turning. A mistake I kept making, he said. And Ames, a consequence I pay to avoid other consequences. Lily stirred and resettled. The room held. People will talk, he said after a time. They already are, she said. I want to get this right, he said. Then, start small. How small? Wipe the counter. Hold your kid. Tell the truth. And stop standing in doorways when you're scared. He breathed out a laugh. It didn't sound like a cough this time. I can do one of those. Try two. He reached for a towel and started with the counter. It wasn't pretty. He missed a streak. He doubled back. He learned in public, and the room didn't punish him for it. Night edged in. Lamps pooled. The monitor's green dot blinked in Maya's pocket, with the heartbeat of a small machine pretending to be a star. She watched the reflection of the three of them in the window. They didn't look like a family. They didn't look like anything recognizable. They looked like people standing up inside the same weather. Outside, the wind found the loose vent again and worried it. Inside, the hum remained. The house, patient as a witness, listened. The study ran cold. Light from the tall windows lay in white slabs across the floor, catching dust like slow snow. Ethan had cleared the desk of everything but a laptop, a legal pad, and 2 cups that still steamed. Sit, he said. Maya stayed standing. She shifted Lily higher on her hip and felt the small weight settle. The room smelled like old paper, and the lemon oil Delaney favored when she needed to think. I want to show you something, he said, turning the laptop. It's rough. The screen held wireframes, boxes inside boxes, ghosted buttons, words that promised more words, a logo in the corner that tried too hard. He clicked through quickly. Anxious dealer, resource directory, live chat, legal aid, emergency child care vetted, anonymous forums. We built a panic route that wipes a screen to a fake recipe blog. He breathed. It's called Lattice. Maya looked. She traced with her eyes the places a person would hesitate. Who named it? Our branding firm, he said. They like metaphors. Do they like groceries at the end of the month? His mouth tipped, unclear. She leaned closer, careful not to bump the keyboard with Lily's foot. The baby made a small chirp, and then fell asleep mid-sound. This button's too far from this field, Maya said, pointing. If your hand is shaking, you won't make it. And your live chat opens with a bot, that's a door pretending to be a door. He wrote without arguing. His pen was a fast scratch. The skin at his knuckles went pale from grip. Keep going. The forum needs a listen mode. People don't always want to talk. Sometimes they want to hear other people breathe. She tapped the edge of the laptop, felt the hum move through the aluminum. Build a feature where you can press one thing and know you aren't the only one awake. At 3, with a screaming infant and a landlord who counts by the hour. He stopped writing. You'd use that. I would have, she said. Wind fussed at the eaves. A vent cover clicked. The house added its 2 cents and settled. I'm not a developer, she said. I'm a woman who knows what it costs to ask for help. That's why I want you, he said. On the team. Maya didn't move. Lily's breath warmed the hollow at her collarbone. A damp, slow rhythm. You want a story for your deck? I want a spine. He met her eyes now, as if he'd stopped networking with them. You don't need to justify airtime. Push this until it matters, or push me out of the way. You say things like that, she said, and then I worry you think saying is the same as doing. Then don't let me think that, he said. Stay until I forget, and remind me. Silence. Brief and solid. As a stone in the mouth, she set Lily in the travel crib Delaney had moved to the study's corner, and watched the baby adopt the same posture she had in Maya's arms, as if the body kept holding the person after the person let go. I'll help, she said, but not as a consultant. If I do this, I don't sit outside the door. Inside, he said. Locked room. Shareholder meeting. Whatever you call the place decisions happen, I pull a chair. Don't pull it, she said. Make room. He wrote that too. A note that might be for code or for himself. Rosa knocked on the frame with 2 gentle taps and slid in with a fresh bottle. Delivery for the boss, she said, nodding at Lily with mock deference. She saw the screen, the outlines of the tool that wanted to be a lifeline, and her brows lifted. You building a bridge or another billboard? Bridge, Maya said. Then make sure there's a ramp, Rosa said, and left them with the smell of cocoa butter and clean scrubs. Ethan looked at the door. She left through like a student who'd just been told the exam was cumulative. He rubbed his jaw with the back of his hand, the skin making a dry sound. Victor's going to hate this. He hates air that hasn't been approved, Maya said. He'll say risk, find a better word, and make his job harder. The intercom on the wall crackled, and then found Delaney's voice calm as a metronome and, Mr. Grayson, Mr. Ames is on 1. And there's a woman named Hart on 2 who's more perfume than patience. Ethan took a breath deep enough to move his shoulders. Put Victor through, he said, then looked at Maya. Stay. She didn't sit. The speaker clicked, and the line filled with a sound like a suit, exhaling. Victor, Ethan said. Optics, Ames said without hello. I'm reading your memo. You cannot place a non-employee in product meetings, especially one in a domestic capacity. We have harassment policies, power dynamics, exposure. You'll write me a framework, Ethan said evenly. Stipends, NDAs that don't gag truth. We'll build a firewall that lets people who use the thing design the thing. This is not a co-op. Ames said. We answer to the board, not the street. Maya stepped into the speaker's line of sight, even though he couldn't see. It felt correct. Maybe both, she said. A pause, a recalibration. Ms. Williams, she said. The boundaries in this household are already compromised. Ames said. We cannot invite further Victor, Ethan said, and there was a small edge now. A knife revealed but not raised. The boundary is a baby. Adjust. Ames made a small sound. I'll draft language, he said, like a man accepting a catastrophe with good penmanship. But you'll own it. I always do, Ethan said. The line clicked dead. The room exhaled. Maya didn't smile, but Lily, unque, let out a tiny sigh like punctuation. Delaney arrived with a tray and the heat of bread still finishing its cook inside. I brought a peace offering, she said, or ammunition. We'll take both, Maya said. They ate standing, the way people do when tables are for other kinds of hunger. Butter slicked the roof of Maya's mouth. The bread tore softly. The radio in the hall found an old jazz station, A trumpet argued and then agreed with itself. Tell me what your day looks like when you aren't here. Ethan said, quiet. He held bread in one hand and a pen in the other, unable to put down either tool. Laundry. That isn't mine, she said. Calls to numbers that put you on hold until you stop being a person. A bus that's late in weather that's early. The list wakes before I do, and you still show up, right? No, she said. I just keep showing up. The laptop dimmed. He tapped the trackpad back into light. The interface waited like a stage before the curtain lifts. We're doing a soft launch in 10 days, he said. Investors breathing, press sniffing, devs. 3 hours from nervous breakdown. Carly's running point. Who's Carly? Maya asked. Product lead. Smart enough to make me feel slow. Good, Maya said. She'll tell you when you're wrong. She already does. He moved the pad toward her. Will you sit in? I'll sit, she said. I'll also talk. Good, he said. The meeting happened 3 hours later. Carly appeared on the screen. Hair in a high knot. Glasses smudged. The kind of focus that made everything else temporary. Screen share spun up. Names stacked in the corner. The team was a scatter of rooms and faces, some in hoodies, some in collars, all in the glow of work. This is Maya, Ethan said without preamble. She's our new head of community insight. There was a second of processing, and then nods, a few hellos. A wave from a square labeled QA Ben with a cat crossing his keyboard like a boat, dragging its anchor through reeds. We're going to walk through the community funnel, Carly said, then the emergency flow, then permissions. Maya listened and then didn't. She watched the hands, the way one dev snapped a rubber band at his wrist when the conversation got sharp, the way another tucked hair behind an ear every time she disagreed, but hadn't found the courage to say so. At minute 17, she interrupted. If I was 18, she said, and my mom's boyfriend had my phone, I couldn't click this tiny icon. I'd need a gesture that looks like a mistake. Carly's face sharpened in the good way. What kind of gesture? Double tap the top right corner. No visual feedback. It opens a voice room with nothing but breath. The room went quiet. Someone's keyboard stopped. Mid-complaint, Ben's cat sat down and stared into the camera like judgment. That's poetic. One of the men said, it's practical. Maya said, a lot of people survive by listening through walls. Carly nodded like a gate had opened. I can route that through our audio layer. We'll need to test battery draw. Test it in a bathroom, Maya said, with a fan running. Cheap ones. Loud. Carly smiled. You're hired, she said, and nobody corrected her tense. They went 2 hours. The sun slid. The windows turned from mirror to night. At the end, Carly closed her laptop with a worn palm and said, Maya, thank you. That changed our day. Your day changed itself. Maya said. I just pointed. When the call ended, the room got bigger again. The house let its bones creak. The vent, that small, insistent voice, ticked once and fell silent like it had heard enough. Ethan sat with his back to the window, framed by the last low light. He looked younger when he forgot to be essential. He held the legal pad like a passport. You were good, he said. I was necessary, she said. He nodded. He took that correction like water. You're staying for dinner. That a question. It's a hope, he said. She didn't answer. Lily stirred and clutched at the air, fingers opening and closing as if kneading an invisible shirt. Maya picked her up. The child's small hand found the chain at Maya's throat and held on. Downstairs, Delaney put a pot on low and let onions surrender to heat. The smell climbed the stairwell. Rain finally committed and started to write on the windows with a steady hand. In the hallway, they passed the framed photographs of men who had made money by making sure other people made less. Maya looked at one long enough for it to look back. The glass held her face and the babies like a glitch. On the landing, a hum rose the refrigerator, ceiling, the boiler answering. The building's quiet machinery doing what it could. Maya paused and pressed her palm to the wall to feel it. "Do you hear that?" Ethan asked. "Always," she said. He stood beside her and copied the move, ridiculous and tender. A rich man learning how a house throbbed. They stayed there a breath longer than people usually do in hallways. Then they moved. Outside, the streetlights came on early and made wet pavement look like a new river. Inside, the green dot on the monitor pulsed once, then steadied, and held. Morning came thin and gray, the kind of light that forgets faces. Steam ghosted the bathroom mirror. Somewhere below, a delivery truck coughed and kept coughing. Maya stood in the nursery doorway and watched Ethan bounce Lily with the clumsy dignity of a man who had practiced at 3 a.m. He kept his voice low, finding the hum she used, more rhythm than tune. Lily's fist bunched his shirt, then released. A test. He passed. Barely. "She's heavier," he said. "That's what safety does," Maya said. He looked over, a quick glance like he wasn't sure if he'd earned looking. The room smelled like warmed cotton, and the faint bite of antiseptic from the wipes Delaney preferred. Outside, rain clung to the window, the way hands cling when they're not ready to let go. Downstairs, the house phone rang, 3 short chimes. Delaney answered on the second, a beat, then her voice at the base of the stairs. "Mr. Grayson, Ms. Hart is here." Ethan exhaled through his nose. "Of course she is." "Who's Hart?" Maya asked. "Public relations," he said. "Perfume and knives." He handed Lily back, careful not to jar the baby's eyelids where sleep hung by its last thread. Maya settled Lily on her shoulder, felt the small lungs decide, then relent. Breath steadied. The little green dot on the monitor pulsed and held like a lighthouse. Lydia Hart waited in the study with a scent like white flowers and money. She had a coat the color of ash and a face that could sell whatever she needed or bury it. Her tablet lay open, screen full of headlines waiting to be born. "Ethan," she said, "you look human. It's charming. Don't make it a habit." "Lydia," he said, "this is Maya." Hart's smile was professional, exactly the temperature of a good conference room. "We've met by rumor." "Rumor leaves out the important parts," Maya said. "Rumor always does," Hart said, and swiped. "Soft launch in 10 days. The board loves the name. Lattice suggests structure without weight. They hate the optics domestic worker in product. We will craft narrative. Lived experience informs design. Compensated appropriately. Boundaries enforced. Say co-creation twice and safeguards 3 times. Fewer adjectives, more verbs. Victor Ames joined by phone. Voice flat as polished stone. And legal would like those safeguards to exist outside of slideware. "We're building them," Ethan said. "Build faster." Ames said. "And keep Ms. Williams out of photographs. A billionaire's penitent arc plays like theater." Hart's Gaza flickered. "He's not wrong," she said. "Press eats contrition for breakfast and spits bones. We cannot feed them your face." To Maya, no offense meant, "Some taken." Maya said mildly, "Good." Hart said, "You'll need it." Carly's calendar pinged. The team chime lit the laptop corner. Funnel review in 5. She'd written, under it, a second line, less corporate. "Bring honesty." They slid chairs closer to the screen. The call opened in motion. Carly already drawing on a shared whiteboard, arrows and notes, boxes that wanted to be doors. Ben's cat reappeared like a recurring character who knows when the jokes need help. "We've integrated listen mode," Carly said, tapping the corner. "Double tap top right. No visual feedback. Prototypes on test flight." But we found a problem with the panic route. Show me, Maya said. Click. The screen swapped to a phone mirror. Fingers move. Menu. Settings. A tap that wasn't a tap. The app flipped to a recipe blog, sunny photos. A smiling hand pouring honey on oats. Ordinary. Too ordinary. If a cop takes your phone and scrolls history, Carly said, the recipe shows as the last page, but the app still registers a live connection for 60 seconds while it completes the wipe. A forensics tech with a UFED could see the socket handshake, chain of custody handed to a prosecutor, and suddenly an accidental open looks like intent. Silence cooled the room. Somewhere in the house, a pipe knocked metal, remembering its shape. Close the socket faster, Ethan said. We can, Carly said, but we risk data loss on live chat if someone hits the panic route mid-conversation. It's triage. Make the wipe immediate, Maya said, but give the other end a signal that's not a signal. What signal? Carly asked. Breath. Maya tapped her own throat. Light. If the line dies dirty, the listener hears 3 short inhales. They know the room went bad. No chat transcripts worth a court case matter more than a safe exit. Carly nodded, like she'd been waiting to be told something she already believed. We can pattern that. Packet-level heartbeat. Legally, Ames said through the speaker, you will document this as a safety feature, not an evasion tool. It's both? Maya said. Hart watched her the way a casting director watches an actor who refuses tidy scenes. You can't keep speaking like that on record, she said. You'll be quoted without your commas. I don't have commas, Maya said. I have people. The call moved. The app thickened. On the screen, Lattice began to look less like an idea and more like an object a person could hold. At the midpoint, the power flickered, the storm finding nerves, and for a breath the room went dim. The laptop's fan slowed, then caught. The green dot on the monitor hesitated and then returned to rhythm. They paused, without meaning to, a stillness made of rain and electricity, and waiting. We good? Carly asked, half laughing, half not. We're here, Ethan said. Okay, Carly said, and drove on. When it ended, Hart slid her tablet shut. You have something, she said. It's dangerous because it matters. People who sell nothing never get sued. Comforting, Ethan said. I'm not here to comfort. Hart said, I'm here to anticipate the knife. She turned to Maya. And you, if you're staying in this story, we make rules. You don't post. You don't pose. You accept a stipend that looks boring. You wear neutral on camera. Jewelry under the shirt. Not over. Maya touched the chain at her throat. Her grandmother's cross had lived there since before she knew what faith looked like. No, she said. Hart blinked. Once, then tuck it on camera days. Fine, Maya said. On camera days. Hart smiled a little, genuine for a second. I don't hate a spine. Delaney appeared at the door with 2 bowls and a towel slung over her shoulder like a truce flag. Lunch, she said, and a reminder to eat like people. The soup was chicken and rice. It steamed and smelled like school nights and scraped knees. They ate over the legal pad and the laptop, careful with the spoons. Tell me about the pilot, Hart said. Where do we test without lighting a flare for predators? In waiting rooms, Maya said. Pediatrics. Urgent care at midnight. Anywhere the flyer rack is full of promises no one keeps. Logistics. Ames asked. We need agreements. BAAs. If we touch PHI. Chain of custody. If a disclosure becomes a report, Carla and I will draft MOU, Ethan said. Keep user data on device. Aggregate out. No names, no locations. The only thing we store is breath. Hart made a note. Press will like that line. It's not a line, Maya said. It's policy. Hart looked up. Then we tattoo it. Rain took a breath and returned heavier. Streetlight bled into the windows early. Orange, smeared by water. Somewhere. A siren wound up and then lost interest. Rosa stepped in with her phone raised. Face tight. Boss, she said to Ethan, you should see this. A gossip site. A photo from a distance. Maya crossing the mansion's side path with Lily on her hip. Headline, Billionaires Nanne, or New Power Behind the Throne. Hart didn't touch the screen. She didn't need to. We can ignore, she said, or we can kill with a clean statement. Human. Clipped. Controlled. What does ignoring buy us? Ethan asked. Time to become inevitable. Hart said, what does a statement buy us? Maya asked. A second target. Hart said, they'll hit me instead of you. Maya looked at the photo. The angle made her look like she was stealing something. She was a child's quiet, a man's attention, her own life. We say nothing, she said. We build faster. Hart studied her, then nodded once, then build. That night, the soft launch list sat like a threat on the desk. Carly sent another ping. I can do a bathroom fan test at 11. My building's loud as hell. I'll be here. Maya wrote back. Ethan leaned in the doorway of the nursery and watched her angle the baby monitor toward the hall, not the crib. Trick of the trade, he asked. It hears feet before it hears cries, she said. He looked at the green dot. I didn't know a light could make me feel like a person. Now you do, she said. He rubbed his jaw, a habit that showed up when he was deciding to tell the truth. Victor wants me to draw lines. HR wants me to draw a box. Lydia wants me to sell the box like air. I don't want to put you inside anything. You already did, Maya said softly, and glanced at Lily. We all did. He took that like he took most things now, without defense. Then what do you need? A badge, she said. Not a guest pass. Something that opens doors without someone watching. He nodded. Tomorrow. And a salary, she said. Not an envelope. Direct deposit. Withholdings. Boring. Tomorrow, he said again. And childcare for other people when this thing goes live, she said. A room here. Cots. Bottles labeled. A clock we obey. His mouth turned, almost a smile at the listing. Delaney will love the clock part. Delaney is the clock, Maya said. He laughed, once real, quick, surprised. The house noticed and decided not to creak for a second. When it got quiet again, they both felt it. The hum in the vents, the held breath before a storm makes up its mind, the recipe blog still open on the laptop like a friendly mask that could save a life or get someone killed if they misread the cues. Maya walked over and closed the browser. The screen went black. Their reflections floated a moment in the glass, two figures and a small green dot behind them, steady as a metronome. Tomorrow, Ethan said, as if the word might keep. Tonight first, Maya said, and listened to the house breathe until it sounded like something she could trust. The urgent care smelled like bleach, coffee, and old rain. Fluorescence hummed in a key that made the back of teeth ache. Vending machines blinked like patient, dumb eyes. Maya set the stack of flyers on the counter and felt the draft from the automatic door creep up her sleeves. Cold, sharp, alive. Permission to clutter the real estate, she asked the night charge nurse. The nurse Janelle gestured with her chin toward the brochure rack between Know Your Blood Pressure and You Might Be Dehydrated. Tattoos slipped from under her scrubs like vines, escaping a fence. You're the tech thing, she said. The quiet one. Try to be, Maya said. Good, Janelle said. We get enough noise. Carly's text buzzed. Router at front desk is garbage. Switching to hotspot. 2 minutes. You're it okay if we bring our own line? Maya asked. Janelle shrugged. Our IT is one guy named Ron who hates printers. Do what you need. If the power dies, yell Ron, and he'll materialize with a surge protector and grief. The automatic door sighed. A woman in a red coat hurried in, hair plastered to her scalp by rain. A boy trailed her, all knobby knees and big eyes. He clutched a toy car so hard it squeaked. Maya watched the boy clock the room, the plastic chairs, the big TV stuck on a loop about hand washing, the security guard pretending to be a plant. The boy stood on the vent grate and let the warm air billow his too-thin jacket, a small animal finding heat. Carly FaceTimed from a corner bench, laptop propped on her knees, cheeks flushed from the run. She popped gum, then stopped like she'd been caught. Sorry, pilot voice. Chew, Maya said. It keeps people honest. We have 3 phones loaded, Carly said. Anon login, panic route patched, Lista mode live. She held up the devices like playing cards. Pick your poison. Maya pocketed one, slid another across to Janelle. Try that. Double tap to hide. If anyone asks, you're researching oatmeal. Janelle snorted. Honey or salt, depends on the night. The red coat woman filled out forms with jerky strokes. The boy rolled his car up and down the edge of the chair, wheels squealing. Then quiet, as he learned pressure. He looked at the flyer, and then at Maya, and then away fast, like he'd been warned not to read anything that smiled at him. Cuta kid, Carly said under her breath. Hungry kid, Maya said. At midnight, the waiting room tilted. It always did a shift in air. A slur of voices, a door that didn't close fast enough. 2 cops walked in with shoulders like lockers and wet nylon squeaking. The security guard stood. The cops didn't look at him. They went to the counter. Domestic. One said, she wouldn't get in the bus. She can be seen, or she can be seen by a judge. Janelle didn't change shape. Name. Which one? The cop said, and laughed like that was a joke. Maya felt the boy watch the uniforms, the way a small animal watches tall grass. He slid off the vent and closer to the chair leg, like gravity got heavier near authority. The woman from the red coat kept writing. Her letters shrank. Sweat beaded above her lip, though the room was cold. When the pen slipped, she didn't go after it. She looked at her hands like they belonged to someone else. Maya sat 2 chairs away, not close, near enough to be reached without spooking the wound. Long night, she said. The woman's mouth flickered. Always. Maya angled the phone in her lap, unlocked lattice with her thumb, without looking down. She turned the screen brightness low, until it disappeared into the reflection of fluorescent light. They keep it cold in here, she said. Keeps people awake. Or compliant, the woman said. Soft. You got someone with you? Maya asked. The woman's eyes went to the cops, and then to the boy, and then back to her lap. I can't afford protection with a copay, she said, and that was humor with blood on it. Maya nodded. Sometimes you can borrow a room with a locked door and a voice that doesn't yell. The woman blinked. Her fingers twitched like they remembered keys in the dark. I don't want anyone to see. They won't, Maya said, and slid the phone so that the recipe blog smiled up harmlessly. If it goes bad, double tap here. No history, no breadcrumbs, just oats. The woman's breath hitched. She looked at the screen the way a person looks at a lake in winter, wondering where the ice thins. She took the phone. Her thumb hovered, then pressed. A quiet chime in Maya's ear. Connect. The line clicked over to the listener on the other end. One of Carly's vetted volunteers sitting in a queen's kitchen with the radio on low and a notebook ready for names she wouldn't write. Hey, the volunteer said, almost a whisper. You don't have to give me anything but the truth you can carry. The woman's eyes softened around the edges. Her jaw unclenched. She nodded to no one. At the counter, The cop drummed a pen against the laminate. How long? He said, bored as a clock. Long as it takes, Janelle said. Taxpayers, he said, as if that was an argument. Bleed like everyone else. Janelle said. Carly typed without looking. Packet heartbeat stable, she murmured. We're good. Your breath idea is saving my blood pressure. It wasn't mine, Maya said. It came from a room with a crying baby and a broken night. She let the thoughts sit. The fluorescent hum filled the pauses between heartbeats. A man in a construction jacket slouched in, knuckles scraped. He smelled like wet drywall in a bar where the floor sticks to your shoes. He scanned the room and found the red coat. The corner of his mouth tugged. Not a smile. He sat 2 seats away, too close. The boy pulled his car into his chest like a turtle's head. Hey, Vivi, the man said, soft as rot. You call me like that again and I'll call social. See how fast the state takes your little science project. The woman's breath stuttered. The phone in her palm didn't move. The recipe stayed put on the screen, all golden oats and a cheerful spoon. Maya watched the corner light. The one Carly had coded to blink so shallow, it looked like a screen defect. It pulsed twice. The volunteer on the line heard it, and her voice changed shape. Do you need me to become a wall? She asked. Say yes if you do. The woman swallowed. Yes. Okay, the voice said. I'm here. The door is shut. Maya stood. She felt the shape of the room, the guard, the cops with their backs turned, Janelle with the power to page an actual doctor or a fake one. She stepped into the space between the man and the woman like stepping between a flame and the last dry match. Sir, Maya said, you're bleeding. He looked at his knuckles like they'd betrayed him. Work, he said. Bathroom's that way, she said. Or the door. You, her mom. He said, I'm her paws, Maya said. He leaned back like he'd been pushed. You have a mouth. Teeth. Too. Janelle said, without looking up. The man laughed, a short, ugly sound. He stood and made a show of stretching like a dog waking up mean. I'll be outside, he said to the red coat. You got 5. He left. The automatic door hissed like relief through clenched teeth. The security guard pretended to become a plant again. The volunteer in the woman's ear spoke low and slow. You have options, she said. We can call an advocate. We can call no one. We can sit here and breathe. 3 in, 3 out. The woman followed. In, out. Her shoulders lowered a fraction. She kept the phone where it looked like a recipe and not a rope. Carly's fingers flew. Panic route handshake trimmed to 2 seconds. She said, even if a forensics nerd grabs it, they'll see the blog and hate our choice in oats. Maya watched the boy drive the car along the chair edge again. The wheels squealed, then quieted as he found the pressure. He looked up at Maya like a diver breaking surface. Is she okay? He asked. Not yet, Maya said. But more than before, Janelle slid a clipboard to the woman. Triage, she said. You're next. The woman nodded. She turned the phone so the screen faced down on her thigh. Double tap. The app's breath cut off clean. In Maya's ear, 3 tiny inhales sounded and still. The volunteer would log the non-log and drink water and stare at the fridge magnet that reminded her that tomorrow counts too. Ames arrived in a coat that repelled weather and emotion. He took in the room like it was a filing cabinet someone had left open. We need her consent if this becomes an intake, he said under his breath. No implied authorization, no paper left on counters. Chain of custody intact if she chooses to report. She chooses safety, Maya said. That's not a legal category. Ames said, it is tonight, Maya said. He didn't argue. He moved to Janelle and asked for a private room for patient confidentiality. And because the words fit a policy, no one wanted to violate. A door opened that otherwise would have stayed painted shut. They walked the woman down the hall. The boy came too, car in his fist. shoulders squared like a soldier carrying a bathroom key. The room hummed less. The light was warmer, more amber than white. The smell of bleach softened under paper soap. "Want me ein?" Maya asked at the threshold. The woman looked at her like a person looks at weather, trying to guess if the wind will hold. She nodded once. Inside, a social worker, with midnight eyes, and a badge that had seen too many lanyards, waited, with forms that mattered and some that didn't. "We'll keep names minimal," she said. "We'll keep choices maximal." The woman breathed. "Maximal," she repeated, tasting the word like a new spice. By 2, the man in the construction jacket was gone. By 3, the boy was asleep on 2 chairs, pushed together, jacket over him like a tarp on a job site. The car rested on his chest. His breath lifted it by millimeters. Carly packed the router with hands that trembled after the adrenaline leaked out. "We should have protocols for lobby predators," she said. "A code phrase to get security off his phone and onto his feet. Make 1, Maya said. Make 5. Ames signed something with a pen that probably cost as much as someone's rent. "I'll draft additional indemnity language," he said. "It won't save anyone, but it might keep the board from pretending they did." "Thanks," Maya said, and meant it. Janelle stretched her back until it popped. "You bringing that app back here next Friday?" she asked. "If they let me?" Maya said. "I don't mean them," Janelle said. "I mean you." She nodded at the phones. "Software's nice, but you walk like a locked door." "Working on it," Maya said. At the desk, the last flyer in the rack leaned forward as if it wanted to fall. Maya straightened it and smoothed a wrinkle no one else would have noticed. Outside, dawn began to scrape color back onto buildings, like a painter who ran out of time yesterday. The automatic door opened for no one and closed again. The green exit sign above it pulsed faintly in the fan draft. It looked, for a breath, like a heartbeat. Rain hung over the city like a held breath, the kind that hurts if you keep it too long. Maya counted 3 beats at the red light and watched the crosswalk figure flash green, then white, then back to the tight little red man, with arms welded to his sides. She went up through freight because the executive elevator was full of suits and cologne. The concrete smelled like damp cardboard. A fan churned somewhere above the cages of old monitors and folding chairs, and each turn of the blade ticked like a tired metronome. On 12, the glass swallowed her. Conference table like a runway. Chairs with the posture of judges. Sloan from PR arranged bottled water into a tiny battalion. Victor Harrow board finance. Cufflinks the size of regret stood at the window, with his back to the room and the city at attention beyond him. "You're late," he said without turning. "I'm on time," Maya said, and set her folder down. "Clock's wrong." Ames slid a legal pad toward her. He wore the same basalt calm he carried into ERs and depositions. "This is informational," he murmured. "Nothing about this room is informational," Sloan said, bright enough to sting. "It's surgical." Victor turned. His smile belonged to a man who'd practiced empathy in a mirror. "Ms. Ward," he said, "your initiative. Quite the headline generator." "It's not built for headlines," she said. "It's built for rooms where people whisper." "Whispers become lawsuits," he said, and tapped the folder in front of him. "We received a letter from the state AG's office. Preliminary inquiry." They use those words when they want to ruin a week. Sloan slid copies down the line, letterhead crisp enough to cut. Maya read the first paragraph twice. Complaint alleging unlawful collection of sensitive data, unlicensed counseling, interference with mandated reporting. Her jaw stayed still. Her knuckles did not. "We log nothing without consent," she said. "We store nothing we can't defend in court. Our volunteers don't diagnose. They listen." Victor laced his fingers like a cathedral. "And the urgent care last night, Two officers claim your listener impeded their investigation by encouraging a victim to decline transport. Transport to where, Maya said, a holding cell, a hallway chair. We gave her a door that locked and a choice that didn't. Feelings, Victor said, are not policy, neither is intimidation, she said. The room tilted. The rain found the glass and tapped to be let in. Ames cleared his throat. We have consent protocols, documented trainings, and an indemnification rider that contemplates volunteer interactions in medical settings. If anything, the clinic's own policies were lax. Sloane's gaze flicked to Maya, then away. A story is forming, she said. Either we're saviors or we're reckless. If we don't shape it, someone else will. We shape it by staying, Maya said, not by apologizing for oxygen. Victor's smile dried. Effective immediately. The board is suspending all field deployments pending independent review. No, Maya said. The words sat between them, small, heavy. You don't have a vote, Victor said. I have a door, she said, and people waiting behind it. Ames pressed 2 fingers against the bridge of his nose. Victor, a blanket suspension signals liability. It signals sanity, he said. He turned to Sloane. Draft language. Proactive pause. Maya stood. She felt her pulse climb her throat. A small animal testing the fence. When the child ends up in a car with the man who cracked his knuckles last night, she said, your language won't warm him. Victor's eyes cooled. Security will escort you out if you don't sit down. Ms. Ward. No one moved. In the silence, the HVAC whispered through vents. A light flickered once and held. Sloane spoke first. Softer. We can do both, she said. Protect the program and placate the bloodhound. A mediated window. 2 weeks. You run only in sites with our MOU already executed. Hospitals. We can stand behind. No pop-ups, no surprises. We announce the pause like it's our idea. Victor stared at her like she'd spoken Swahili. You're rewarding insubordination. I'm preventing an implosion, she said. Ames nodded once. 2 weeks buys us counsel with the AG's office. It also lets us produce a policy binder that looks like scripture. Maya exhaled. It felt like setting a broken thing without anesthesia. 2 weeks, she said. But I'm not pulling the line out of anyone's ear mid-sentence. Victor lifted his water with 2 fingers. Consult PR before you speak to anyone, he said. Even yourself. She took the freight down. In the cage, her reflection looked like it had climbed out of a lake and wasn't sure about land. The fan ticked. Another breath. She went straight to the nursery. Lena was propped up in bed with a picture book and a headband that had no intention of staying put. The room smelled like oranges and clean cotton, the humidifier purring like a cat with opinions. Moons or trucks? Lena asked, holding up both covers. Moons, Maya said, because the day needed soft edges. She read about a rabbit who refused to sleep because the night was full of noises that might be doors or monsters or leaves arguing with windows. Lena traced the crescent across the page, small finger leaving fog prints that faded quick. You sad? The girl asked. A little. Drink water, Lena said, and handed her the child-sized cup from the nightstand. With the solemnity of a doctor, Maya took a sip, plastic and orange, and the faint taste of tap. Prescribed, she said. By the second moon, Lena's blinks got heavy. By the third, her breath fell into the up-down of peace. Maya tucked the blanket in at the toes, the way someone once taught her when the floor was colder than the bed. The phone buzzed. Carly, got your note. Read the letter. Will harden consent flow. Split panic into listen versus dispatch. Need you in the lab. Also, I stole a plant. Maya smiled without teeth. On my way, she wrote. The lab was a warehouse painted white and optimism. Laptops sprouted like mushrooms. A whiteboard sweated diagrams. There was, indeed, a plant rubber, glossy, obscene in its health in the corner by the Ethernet switch. Photosynthesize for morale. Carly said, don't make it weird. It was already weird. Maya said, they built until midnight. They wrote consent text that didn't feel like a trap. Language that said you're in charge in words that a tired brain could read. Carly split the red button into two listen and help, and made the first default to human ears, and the second burst like a flare that would call an advocate or an ambulance, depending on where the GPS dot breathed. Chain of custody, Carly asked. Only if they choose, Maya said. Don't collect what you can't protect. Don't keep what they don't want. Carly chewed a pen cap. Victor wants a log that can survive a subpoena. Then he can sit in the room when it breaks a person in half, Maya said. At 1, Ames arrived with a stack of printed statutes and a sandwich that had forgotten its vegetables. Attorney General's deputy agreed to a call. He said, they're not enemies. They're cautious. He perched on a stool and read their consent flow like a father reading an instruction manual on the night before Christmas. He scratched a line, added a clause, circled a verb. Passive voice is how people get disappeared, he said, and handed it back. The call with the deputy AG went like a church, where everyone knew the hymn but not the words. The deputy's voice was warm, but each sentence had a spine. We have complaints, she said. Some sincere, some opportunistic. Help me separate them. Maya told her about the urgent care. No names, no heroics. Just the draft in the doorway, the way a child clutched a toy like a life raft, the space between a man's knuckles and a woman's pulse. We believe in mandated reporters, the deputy said. We also believe in consent. You're threading a needle that cuts both ways. I know, Maya said. I bled on it first. Silence. Then, 2 weeks. The deputy said, show me training modules. Signed MOU and a harm reduction matrix. And Ms. Ward, don't let the board make you easier to kill. After the call, Carly stared at the plant as if it might offer counsel. Harm reduction matrix, she said. Sounds like a band, a bad one. Ames said. Maya rubbed the bridge of her nose until stars flickered. We build it, she said. We build all of it. By Thursday, the press found a new chew toy. By Friday, the lobby protest shrank from 12 to 3. Victor watched the numbers, not the faces. He stopped saying pause like it was a benevolent act, and started saying framework like he'd invented doors. Sloane came by the lab with a box of pastries and a look that said she hadn't slept inside her own nights. I need a story, she told Maya. One that doesn't sound like a press release and doesn't get us sued. Tell them a woman chose the lock instead of the siren. Maya said, tell them we stood between a fist and a throat. They'll ask for proof. Sloane said, tell them proof belongs to the woman. Maya said. Sloane's face softened, a crack in a mask. You make my job harder, she said. You make mine survivable. Maya said. Late, when the lab emptied and the rubber plant had finished its photosynthesis or whatever plants pretend at under LEDs, Maya sat with the new flow open on the screen. Listen. Help. The words were small. The distance between them was smaller. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost let it go to voicemail. She answered. A breath. Then another. Someone on a sidewalk somewhere. Traffic hissed like rain. Is this the listening line? A voice asked. Young, sandpapered by cigarettes. A burr of accent that edged the vowels. It is, Maya said. I can listen. My sister, the voice said. He says he can keep the baby. He knows a judge. He knows a cop. He knows everyone. I don't know anyone. You know me right now, Maya said. A pause. What if I make it worse by asking, then I stay with you while it's worse, she said, and until it's less. Another breath. The traffic lifted. Okay, the voice said. Okay. Maya toggled the matrix they'd built into her mind. Quietly. Legal clinic within 2 blocks. Shelter with flexible intake after midnight. Volunteer awake in Queens with a notebook and the radio low. She didn't say any of it yet. She just matched her breathing to the stranger's until the rhythm steadied in both bodies. In the window's reflection, a green light blinked on the router. Once, twice, 3 times. Heartbeat. The ER lights were the color of boiled milk. Everything too bright, nothing warm. Ammonia hung in the air, cut by coffee, and the metallic breath of the ice machine that rattled every 3rd minute like a cough. Maya signed the clipboard and slid her badge to the registrar. The woman stamped the MOU with a blue star and passed it back without lifting her eyes. "You're cleared," she said. "Stay out of triage lanes." "I'd settle for a hallway," Maya said. A siren rose, then died before the doors. The entrance side open. With night blew in, bringing a mother with rain in her hair and a child pressed to her chest like a last possession. A security guard reached for the door to hurry them through and missed, his hand hitting glass that didn't care. Maya felt the old animal in her throat. It didn't bite. It watched. Ames moved beside her with a folder he could have used as a shield. "Deputy AG has a staffer, observing," he said. "Not hostile, not friendly. Like weather," she said. Sloane arrived, dressed like a truce. Navy blazer, no jewelry, hair back. She handed Maya a paper cup. "Drink," she said. "You go gray at the edges when you forget." "Is that in a manual?" "It's in my nightmares." The room vibrated with fluorescent hum. Monitors chirped in no rhythm at all. A detective with a tired tie stood near the nurse's station, reading his own notebook, like it contained a past life. Laird, the nameplate read. He watched everything without moving. Behind the station, charge nurse Ramirez checked meds against a tray with the swift, precise motions of someone who had learned to keep herself a secret while saving people who didn't want to be saved. She saw Maya, gave the briefest nod, then returned to the dance of tape and vials. The mother with the rain hair name, Tasha, wristband, sat in a hall chair, hugging a boy whose shoes flashed blue with each twitch. A bruise bloomed under her left eye like a sunset that lost its mind. The boy panted through a whistle. Asthma or fear, both left the same residue on a person's mouth. Maya crouched without asking for the chair. "I can listen," she said. "I don't need your name. I need your yes." Tasha's eyes landed on the lanyard, then the phone in Maya's hand, then the door. "He said he knew the judge," she whispered. "He said if I left, he'd say I was crazy." "You're here," Maya said. "That's sane." A flick of hesitation, then a nod. "Yes." Maya tapped listen. The interface slid open, quiet as breath. "Consent screen." Tasha's finger trembled a second, then steadied. The green check lit like a tiny lighthouse. "Room 4, Ramirez said over her shoulder, already moving. "Bring the kid. I'll get Neb." They moved fast. The door closed with a soft bump that sounded, to Maya, like a held breath, deciding. Inside, the room smelled like lemon wipes and oxygen. Ramirez snapped tubing to a compressor and layered the mask over the boy's nose, her hands gentle but direct. "Big breaths, little man," she said. "In, out. You and this machine are a team." The machine kicked. Vapor swirled. The boy's shoulders unknotted a length. Tasha's hands shook in the way that tells you a person has been steady too long. The door opened. Detective Laird filled the frame without being large. He looked at the mask, at Tasha, at Maya's phone. "We got a call," he said. From who? Maya asked. From someone concerned. About what? Ramirez said, not looking up. That a child might be in danger, Laird said, and there was no threat in it, only a ledger. Maya kept her voice inside normal. We're in the MOU, she said. Consent is on record. You're welcome to observe. You're not welcome to interrogate her during treatment. He blinked once. Not slow, not fast. Nobody's interrogating. Ramirez glanced at Maya. It was a flick of the eye that carried a paragraph. She turned to Tasha. Do you want anyone else in here? She asked. It's your call. Tasha swallowed. No, then no, Ramirez said to Laird, not apologizing. Laird held the door open a beat. The hallway sound swelled. An overhead voice called a code for a ward that wasn't theirs. He let the door ease shut. The machine kept breathing. Maya's phone hummed twice. Carly. Proof of life on consent flow looks gorgeous. AG staffer in waiting room. Wants to see training module after this. Maya typed with her thumb. Tell them, yes. 2 minutes. The boy's chest rose easier. His shoes blinked in lazy pairs. Tasha leaned back against the pillow earth and closed her eyes. He'll come here, she said. He always come. Maya anchored her own voice to the compressor's rhythm. We'll plan for both doors, she said. The one he uses and the one you can use. The door opened again, breaking the sentence like a twig. Laird stepped in with a woman in a black blazer who carried a leather folio like it had its own jurisdiction. Department of Children and Families, the woman said, showing a badge. Intake. Tasha's breath snagged. Her fingers found the blanket edge and picked at the seam. Ramirez's shoulders set. Treatment isn't done, Ramirez said. Intake doesn't pause for nebulizers, the woman said, and the language was polished from long use. Ames arrived at Maya's shoulder. He wore calm like a suit. We have a signed consent, he said. Our protocols require any interview to be voluntary, private, and off the record until the physician clears the patient. Your protocols are adorable, the intake worker said, not unkind. Maya watched Tasha's face, the way thoughts marched across it like a quiet parade. I can answer, Tasha said, just not with him here. She meant the man who would come, or the man in the doorway, or both. Ames nodded. Detective, could we give the family privacy? He asked. Laird looked at the mask, at the bag under Tasha's chair spilling diapers, and an inhaler with a cracked cap. 5 minutes, he said. He stepped back into the hall, took up an orbit a few feet from the glass. Ramirez pulled the curtain. The room dimmed to soft. The intake worker opened her folio. Forms crisp, pen ready. Name, she asked. Tasha looked at Maya. You give only what you want, Maya said. First name, Tasha said. Barely. Last. Silence. The woman's pen scratched a ghost line. Any prior involvement with our department? Tasha's mouth opened. Shut. He called once, she said. Told them I left him hungry. They came. They opened my freezer and counted ice. The intake worker didn't look up. They closed it, she said. Not question, not statement. A small bridge offering itself in a river. Tasha nodded. They closed it. The pen wrote. Ramirez checked the tank. Hand on the boy's shoulder now. Thumb. Rubbing a small circle that meant, keep going. You're doing it? You're okay. The intake worker finished her page and slid a duplicate toward Maya. If you're collecting any recording, we need a copy, she said. We're collecting heartbeat and breath, Maya said. We keep what she wants us to keep. Public record law says otherwise. Patient privacy law says the opposite. A beat. Then the worker smiled. Tired. You're going to be no fun, she said. Likewise, Maya said. The door cracked. Sloane's face appeared in the sliver. Eyes a question mark. Maya shook her head once. Not yet. When the compressor wound down, the room felt too quiet. like sound had stepped outside to smoke. Ramirez lifted the mask and listened to the boy's chest with the stethoscope's cold bell. "Better," she said, but not done. Footsteps came fast, not heavy, purposeful. A man in a polo with construction dust on his knees stopped 2 rooms down and looked left, right, then straight at door 4. He had the kind of hands that looked like they'd won arguments with drywall. Laird moved out of his orbit and into his path. "I'm here for my son," the man said. "Not yet," Laird said. "I pay the rent." The man said, "She don't." Ramirez's mouth went a thin line. The intake worker capped her pen. Ames slid a business card from his pocket and wrote a number on the back that wasn't printed. Maya stepped back, so Tasha saw the doorway, not her. "We can go out the nurse exit," she said low. "If you choose that door, I walk with you until you find a lock that's yours." Tasha looked at the boy's shoes, blinking blue. The boy looked at his mother, then at the machine, like it had been a friend in a storm. "Will it make it worse?" she asked. "Yes," Maya said. At first, the hallway noise rose. A phlebotomist wheeled a tray past like a fragile parade float. The man in the polo argued gravity with Laird. "Okay," Tasha said. The word was small. It carried a country. Ramirez already had the discharge papers, unsigned, prepped with check marks, and a physician's note that would pass an audit by a person who had never been in this room. She handed Tasha a paper bag with a new inhaler and spacer. "2 puffs," she said. "You know the routine." Tasha stood, lifted her bag, set it down, lifted it again. The intake worker tucked the forms into her folio. "I need an address to schedule a follow-up," she said. "Use the shelter on 125, Maya said. Sloane slipped the door wider, with a glance over her shoulder. "Cámaras absent. Left," she whispered. "Hallway clear." Laird appeared in the glass like a warning. He didn't block the way. He didn't move. Tasha lifted her son. The boy's shoes blinked. Ramirez opened the curtain, and they stepped into the hall. The man in the polo took a single step forward and stopped when he saw Laird's hand open at waist height, palm out. "Empty. Not today," Laird said. Something passed between the two men. It wasn't respect. It was recognition that there were days, and this wasn't one. They moved, past the ice machine that coughed, past the vending unit humming behind its glass like a captive animal, past a sign that said, "No food or drink," and a nurse eating a cracker anyway, because blood sugar doesn't read signs. Sloane's shoes made no sound. Ames walked like a lawyer who had carried too many boxes up too many courthouse stairs. Ramirez peeled away at the line, back into the pulse of her ward. At the ambulance bay, the night air hit like cool forgiveness. Rain had gone, leaving the pavement dark and clean. The shelter van waited with the engine low. The driver raised 2 fingers in greeting. Tasha buckled her boy into the second row, with hands that remembered how to do everything, even when the brain did not. "You'll be there?" Tasha asked Maya. "I'll be where the lock is," Maya said. The van pulled into the street, tail lights painting the wet black in long red strokes. The intake worker stood under the overhang. Her folio closed now, her face a lesser fight. "I'll log it," she said, "and I'll note the consent." "Thank you," Amos said, because good manners sometimes soften a blade. Back inside, Laird leaned against the wall with the posture of a man who carried headaches in his shoulder instead of his skull. "I'll get a call about that," he said. "From who?" Maya asked. "From someone who knows a judge," he said, not smiling. "I'll tell them." The kid could breathe. He pushed off the wall and left. His tie flicked like a tail around the corner. Sloane checked her phone and went white. "There's a leak," she said. "An email chain with your name. It says, You told volunteers to delay law enforcement presence whenever possible. It's getting legs. Ames took the phone, scrolled, frowned. Headers are off, he said. Spoofed. But the optics burn. Sloane said, we need a pane of glass between you and this now. Or a mirror, Maya said. Carly texted 3 bubbles in a row. On it. Source looks internal. Timestamp is 1 minute before it's sent. Whoever did this likes magic tricks. Ramirez appeared at the edge of the group, stripping a glove with her teeth because both hands were full. She dropped it in the bin and looked at Maya like a person picking a side of a river. If you need a statement, she said, I'll put my name on the line. You sure? Sloane asked. No, Ramirez said. But I'm tired of the wrong people owning the paperwork. The rubber plant in the lab would be drinking light now if it could. Here. The only green was the exit sign above the ambulance bay. It flickered once, then held steady. 2 weeks. Ames said, reminding no one. 2 minutes. Maya said, looking at the door where the van had been. That's what people live in. The ice machine coughed again. The sound bounced down the hall, found no answer, and returned as a dull little echo that sat in the chest like a hand. The conference room smelled like old toner and lemons that had given up. Frosted glass held shadows at the edges, elbows, a flick of a pen, the tilt of a jaw that had decided its verdict an hour ago. The AC churned a steady white hiss that flattened voices into something almost polite. Maya took the end chair and set her phone face down. Her palms left 2 small crescents of damp on the laminate. Across from her, hospital counsel wore a tie, the color of wet concrete, and a smile that said he wished none of this existed but would still bill for it. Beside him, an administrator with lacquered hair kept rearranging a stack of policy binders like a minor deity of order. Let's be clear, counsel said, tapping a page. The memorandum of understanding remains in effect. However, given recent publicity, we're suspending access. Pending review. Sloane sat to Maya's right, pen idle, eyes alert. Ames, 2 seats down, did his quiet thing with the documents. Building a 4-cornered castle of clauses and dates, he didn't look up when he spoke. Your review timeline, 45 days. Maya's breath snagged. People don't have 45 days, she said. The administrator's smile didn't move. Safety is everyone's priority. Then don't make it a slogan, she said. Silence tilted. The AC coughed and recovered. From the hallway, a gurney rolling past, wheels squeaking on every 3rd tile, the rhythm of a bad lullaby. Sloane flipped a printout into the middle of the table. The email that sparked your concern is fabricated, she said. Header anomalies. Timestamp precedes transmission by 72 seconds. Also, whoever made it used a font. This hospital doesn't have loaded on its machines. Counsel didn't touch the page. We'll welcome your forensic report. Miss Sloane. Today, we're addressing perception. Our donors perceive risk. Our insurer perceive exposure. My job is to mitigate both. People perceive breath, Maya said. Ames slid a packet forward. We propose a limited carve-out, he said. Case-by-case access. Emergency only, with sign-off from charge nurse and attending. Audit trail intact. Observers allowed. The administrator aligned her binders again, spine to spine. Our board meets at 5, she said. We'll consider it. By then, Sloane murmured. Someone stops breathing. Counsel folded his hands, the tendons leaning like the ribs of a roof. Ms. Williams, he said, you've built something admirable. But institutions move on institutional time. I know, she said. That's why people die in waiting rooms. No one wrote that down. The thermostat ticked. They adjourned with the false warmth of people leaving a wake. In the hallway, The fluorescence hummed hard enough to be a headache. Ramirez stood at the nurse's station, pretending to read a chart she wasn't holding. Her badge had a new yellow sticker, pending review. "They clipped you," Maya said. Ramirez's mouth twitched. "Placed me on administrative reflection, which I guess means I'm a mirror with a timeout." "It's punishment. It's a process," Ramirez said, "because some words kept your job, even as they stole your sleep." Her eyes slid to the clock above the med room. It was stopped at 11. Saint-Chabat. Someone had pulled the battery and never put it back. Maya touched the counter with 2 fingers, kneading the cold. "I'm sorry," she said. Ramirez shook her head. "I knew what I was signing." "You, too." She leaned in and lowered her voice. "The leak didn't come from here. Admin thinks it did. They're wrong." "How sure? I know my own kind of mess," Ramirez said. And that email was a different flavor. Sloane joined them, phone to her ear. "Carly's in the logs," she said, covering the mic. "She's excited, which means she's found a ghost. Or a mistake. Sometimes they're the same." Ames waved them toward the elevator. "Deputy AG's office. 20 minutes, he said. "Bring your cleanest face." They rode down with a phlebotomist who stared at her own shoes like they'd misled her. On the first floor, the coffee kiosk hissed steam and burned milk. The barista handed a latte across the counter with a tattooed wrist that said, "Hold fast," in tiny maritime script. Outside, the afternoon had the bruised light that happens before rain decides. The city breathed diesel and hot pretzel. A siren slit the air and sealed it back up. The Deputy Attorney General's suite sat 4 floors up in a granite building that had decided it was timeless. In the waiting room, a ficus tried not to die. The receptionist wore headphones and moved her mouth without sound. The staffer who met them, young, cufflinks, a face like a smooth coin, walked them into a conference room where the blinds were already down. He set a recorder on the table, labeled it with blue tape, and dated it in a hand that had practiced precision. "For the chain," he said. "Appreciated," Amos said, and logged the sticker number in his own file. The 2 men nodded to the gods of custody. "Ms. Williams," the staffer said, "we're not here to litigate your app. We're here to ask about the allegation that you advised volunteers to impede law enforcement." "I didn't," she said. "Can you prove that you didn't?" Sloane placed her laptop on the table, turned it so the screen faced the room. "Server logs," she said. "No such message sent from any device tethered to Maya's account. We traced the origin of the fake to a printer on this floor." The staffer kept his face an empty room. "Excuse me. Your printer," Sloane said, "or one it thinks is family." Carly matched the tiny yellow dots. "Printer steganography embedded in the PDF. Those dots are time and serial. They put the document at 8:12 am yesterday from device 4C17. That's your copy room." The staffer swallowed and didn't let it show. His eyes flicked to the door and back. A reflex the body does when the brain remembers it's made of meat. "I'll need to verify that," he said. "Of course," Amos said. "We'll wait." They didn't wait. 10 minutes later, a deputy with sleeves rolled to the elbow stepped in with a face like he'd just discovered a leak in his own boat. He asked to speak to the staffer outside. The voices were low, then not. Words lifted and fell. "Internal, unauthorized, who had access, you." When the staffer returned, his cuffs had lost their polish. "We'll be issuing a statement," he said. The email was not authenticated. "We regret the confusion." "That's a nice sentence," Sloane said. "You'll put it in the present tense." He blinked. "Pardon, not regretted," she said. "Not past. People read fast. We'll manage the language," he said. which meant they wouldn't. Maya watched the recorder's red light blink like a small heartbeat. She thought of the stopped clock in Ramirez's ward. She thought of the boy's shoes blinking under a towel. Someone weaponized your office. She said, if they're willing to do that, they'll be willing to do more. The staffer's jaw tightened. We appreciate your concern. Concern isn't the word, she said. They left with a manila envelope that was nothing, and a promise that was less. In the elevator going down, Sloane let out a laugh that had no joy in it. Printer dots, she said. We live in a world where paper tattles. Ames checked his watch. Hospital board in 30, he said. We'll present the carve-out again. Use their liability fear against itself. Rain had started by the time they hit the street. It came straight and honest, rinsing the day. People pulled up hoods, ducked under scaffolds. Did the dance of city weather? Maya didn't run. She let it soak her hair, cooled her scalp, scraped some heat off her skin. Her phone buzzed. Carly. Bad news. Hospital board added a motion. Full suspension of MOU plus internal review of staff who facilitated unauthorized access. Ramirez is on the list. Maya stopped under a bus shelter that smelled like stale gum and damp wool. The glass held a map nobody used anymore. Sloane read the text over her shoulder and swore softly. They're not even waiting for optics to settle. Self-preservation is a reflex. Ames said. Sometimes it's a weapon. Maya said. They reached the hospital as the board filed into the auditorium. Donors with careful hair, a priest in a square collar, 2 city council aides who looked 12 and had eyes like little knives. Council found them, lips tight. You can speak during public comment, he said. 3 minutes. 3 minutes is a joke, Sloane said. Then make it a good one, he said. They waited while reports droned. The rain clicked on the windows. Someone brought cookies and called it hospitality. Maya watched the exit sign over the side door flicker. Catch. Hold. She could feel the breath in the room, thin, polite, economical. Public comment opened, and a grandmother went first, speaking about her grandson's seizures and an ambulance that took too long. Her voice shook and then leveled. A union rep spoke next, reading names of nurses who had left for better pay and fewer ghosts. When they called Maya's name, the room made a sound like a throat clearing. She walked to the mic with her wet hair and her cheap shoes, and no apology. The clock on the lectern started counting down from 180 like a dare. I won't tell you about apps, she said. You've already decided what you think about those. I'll tell you about a machine that breathed for a little boy this morning because his mother carried him through your doors. I'll tell you about the nurse you're investigating who held his hand and told him he was doing great even while your policy tried to scare his mother quiet. I'll tell you that if you break this MOU, you won't stop me from listening. You'll just make people listen alone. The room hushed. Somewhere in the back, a plastic chair creaked someone, leaning forward despite himself. 3 minutes is small, she said, and let herself smile once. Fast. So is the distance between a breath and no breath. Please be careful what you widen. The clock hit 0. She didn't step away until the red light turned to nothing. The board voted like boards do, eyes on paper. Voices in favor of tomorrow's inbox. Motion to suspend the MOU pending review. Passed. Motion to investigate staff who facilitated unauthorized access. Passed. Motion to add community representatives to the review panel. Tabled. A hiss went through the room that might have been the air conditioning or disappointment trying to leave the building. Ramirez found Maya in the aisle, the new yellow sticker bright as a bruise. They'll take my badge by morning, she said. You want me at HR? Maya asked. No. Ramirez said, you'll make it a spectacle. I need it to be boring so they don't notice when I come back. They stood a moment, not speaking. The auditorium smelled like carpet and sugar. Rain drummed the high windows. On stage, counsel shook hands with a donor whose cufflinks caught the light and threw it back at no one. Sloane's phone lit her face with cold blue. Carly found our gray, she said. Leak came from inside AG's copy room. Yes, but initiated by someone with a guest badge. The badge was signed out by Deputy Kerwin's assistant. Guess who donated to the hospital foundation last month? Kerwin, Amos said. Kerwin, Sloane echoed. The circle draws itself. Maya pictured the blue dots hidden in the paper like a constellation only machines could see. She pictured the stopped clock and the exit sign and the inhaler Ramirez had tucked in a paper bag with a Sharpie label. A chair scraped behind them. Detective Laird stood in the aisle. Usco, hair damp from the rain. He looked at the stage, then at Maya. I can't fix boards, he said. I can fix reports. What do you mean? I can write what I saw this morning, he said. That a mother consented, that a child improved, that a process worked. Sometimes paper saves people who don't get rooms. You'll take heat, Sloane said. I'm already a migraine, Laird said. Might as well be useful. He walked away before anyone could thank him. His shoes left small dark marks on the carpet that faded in seconds. Outside, the rain had cleaned the air down to the metal. The city smelled like pennies and promise. Maya stood under the awning and watched the streetlights bloom halos. Across the way, a bus hissed and pulled out, spraying the curb. Someone laughed behind a scarf. Someone else coughed twice and was fine. A small blue inhaler sat on the auditorium windowsill, forgotten or waiting. It caught a drip from the leaky frame and held it, then another. Then another. They hit her office at dawn. No sirens. Just the quiet thud of authority, knuckles on glass, a badge against the pane, the smell of wet coats and cardboard. The lobby lights were still on the night timer, cold and blue. Maya opened the door in a sweatshirt and found agents already spreading evidence bags on the reception desk like place settings. Search warrant, the lead said. He had rain on his eyelashes and a voice trained not to rise. Electronic media, communications, documents relating to unauthorized medical practice, case numbers on the first page. Sloane slid in behind Maya. Hair damp, eyes dry. We'll need to read scope, she said. And a digital image protocol. You don't touch the originals if you can mirror. Ames arrived 2 minutes later with a tie and a thermos. The legal cavalry in a sedan. He scanned the paper, lips moving once. Overbroad, he said, but signed, you image only. Hash at collection. And we copy your hash. The agent nodded. We brought a write blocker. He gestured to a gray Pelican case that looked like it had seen other people's worst morning. Maya stood out of traffic and watched strangers unzip the life she'd built. Clamshell laptops sprouted like shells on the conference table. A portable imager blinked a green LED that pulsed patient as a metronome. Each device got a sticker with a case number, an evidence tag, a time. Blue gloves squeaked against rubber feet as machines were turned and lifted. The room smelled like plastic, ozone, and coffee gone sour. Name the requesting office, Sloane said without looking up. Deputy Attorney General's unit. The agent said, Kerwin. Amos said, not a question. The agent didn't answer that, which was an answer. A uniformed officer stayed near the door. Body cam on, the red diode blinking. He didn't look at Maya, and he didn't look away. His boots had left wet half-moons across the carpet. Detective Laird pushed in past him, flashed a shield, like a hall pass, and shook the rain off his jacket onto the mat. You got scope, Laird asked the lead, and they did the dance. He read, grunted once, and found Maya's eyes. You okay? She nodded. Define okay. Still breathing, he said. That counts. One of the techs wheeled a cart to the server rack. Carly had labeled every bay by hand with tape and a Sharpie. Node 1, Node 2, staging, backup, because labels mattered when panic didn't. The tech clipped in a write blocker, spoke the SHA 256 hash values out loud as they scrolled, and another agent wrote them down. Chain spoke to chain. The ritual built a wall between accusation and fact. Receipt, Ames said. When the first drive was sealed, serial, hash, time, handler. They printed the inventory on a laser that coughed in sheets. Each page got signed twice. Each box was strapped shut with tamper tape that glowed dull red. Sloane stood at the window and watched the rain lose patience. They'll leak the warrant before the coffee cools, she said. We'll look like a crime before we get a sentence. Then we speak, Maya said. Not yet. Sloane's voice flattened. We let their hubris write the first paragraph. The lead agent paused at her desk. Ms. Williams, he said, almost gentle, we'll be as quick as we can. She nodded again. Do what you came to do. He looked like he wanted to say something else. Then didn't. The clock on the wall said 6:11 and kept saying it. Someone had unplugged it to use the outlet and never plugged it back. The room had its own stop time. Carly arrived breathless, hoodie and backpack, a wet map of the subway across her hair. She froze at the sight of the boxes, then went very still. We salted the backups. She whispered to Sloane, cold storage off-site, air gap. They can't touch the Deadman. Good, Sloane said. Don't say the word Deadman out loud again. Carly nodded and swallowed. Laird drifted to the copy machine and ran a finger along its glass. Funny thing about printers, he said. Don't start. Sloane said. He half smiled. They remember, sometimes better than people. The agents finished with the last drive, sealed the last box, and rolled the city away on a dolly. The room felt bigger and emptied, like after a move. They left the inventory receipt and a carbon that smelled like ink and years. As the door closed, Maya's phone buzzed. Ramirez. Hayar took my badge. She read it twice. The building sounded louder around the word. I'm at the curb. Ramirez sent. Don't come out. They're watching. Maya typed with her thumb and didn't hit send. She could see the scene in her head without leaving the window, a nurse with a lunch she wouldn't eat, a yellow sticker over the old photo, a security guard who checked his watch twice to avoid her eyes. Sloane put a hand on Maya's shoulder. We'll fix what can be fixed, she said. What about what can't? Maya asked. They didn't answer. The rain beat its knuckles on the glass. By 9, the warrant had bloomed on 3 news sites. By 10, Hospital Council issued a statement that read like wallpaper. At 11, Ames filed a motion to quash and a request for a protective order. At noon, Carly slid into a chair with a plate of vending machine crackers and nothing else. I chased the donor tree, Carly said. Crumbs careful. The foundation took money from a shell that belongs to a medical device distributor. The distributor hedged a short against your app's partner. Guess who sits on both advisory boards? Kerwin, Sloane said. Carly nodded, cheeks hot. He listed it on an ethics form, but buried it under civic engagement. I hate that phrase. Ethics loves semantics, Ames said. Maya stood and felt the stiffness in her knees from a morning spent not moving. We need a room, she said, with cameras that aren't theirs. The community center, Sloane said. 4 o'clock. We show the printer dots without saying printer dot. We show breath without saying oxygen. And Ramirez, Maya asked. No one had an easy word. At 3, a text came that cut the noise down to 1 frequency. Incoming PEDS, asthma wave. Bus, from shelter, code orange. I'm outside Ramirez. Maya didn't ask permission. She didn't confer. She grabbed the plastic tote by the door. A habit turned doctrine loaded with spacers, rescue inhalers, consent forms, a Sharpie taped to a clipboard. Sloane saw her hand and didn't try to stop it. "You know the cameras," Sloane said. "I know the kids," Maya said. The hospital entrance was a pane of rain and rotating doors. The air inside had the thin coffee smell of crisis. In the lobby, a line of parents curved toward registration, anxiety making its own cue. A maintenance cart beeped as it backed up. Overhead, a television mute scrolled weather and fear. Ramirez stood by the wall with her badge in a pocket she couldn't use. Her mouth went tight when she saw Maya, then softened into something like relief that hurt to look at. They rerouted to the lobby. Ramirez said, "Triage is slam. Supply is late." "Observers?" Maya asked. "Everywhere," Ramirez said. "Don't look like you're hiding." Maya didn't look like she was hiding. She walked into the current and set the tote on a side table. "If you have a form in your hand," she called, voice low and strong, "I'm coming to you. If you don't, I'll give you one." She knelt to the first mother on the floor, a woman in a thrifted coat, holding a boy whose ribs counted, his lips tracing a blue not meant for skin. "I'm Maya," she said. "We're going to help him breathe. I need you to initial here and here." The woman's pen scratched, her hand shaking once, then the line steadied. Maya fitted the spacer to the inhaler, counted out puffs into the chamber, pressed it to the boy's mouth, and met his eyes. "In," she said. "Hold. Out." Again, the boy's chest fluttered, and then caught a rhythm. He swallowed air like it was a secret he'd been told he couldn't keep. The color returned from the edge inward. One by one, the lobby turned into an improvised clinic. Ramirez knelt, demonstrated, moved, did the sacred arithmetic of nurse work with no badge and all authority. A security guard hovered and then started handing out clipboards because that was what made sense. A resident with a ponytail and a stain on his sleeve took pulses and didn't ask who had sanctioned any of it. The hum of the building changed by a degree. The exit sign over the stairwell held its red like a steady heart. A camera crew edged the doorway, sniffing story. Sloane appeared like smoke at their elbow. "You film faces. You'll leave without a lens," she said pleasantly, and somehow they believed her. Laird materialized near the metal detector. Arms folded, body cam pointed at the floor. Kerwin's aide arrived out of breath and out of place. A suit in rain spots, phone already filming. He started a sentence with "on behalf of," and didn't get to finish it. "On behalf of breathing," Ramirez said, not looking up, and the room felt it. A boy on a gurney started to laugh between breaths, a sound like a hinge given oil. His mother covered her face and let out something that was half sob and half thank you. Maya felt the weight she knew always comes after the first wave. She looked up just as hospital counsel appeared, flanked by two administrators like punctuation. "You need to stop," counsel said, voice pitched for the recorders. "We will when they can," Maya said, and handed a consent form to a father who took it like a passport. "You're trespassing," the administrator said to Ramirez. "You've been suspended." Ramirez capped an inhaler, pressed it into a small hand, and stood. She unclipped whatever remained of her badge and set it on the edge of the table with her own steady fingers. "Then write me up for memory," she said. "This is what we do." The quiet in the space was a thing with edges. The rain hit the glass and kept time. Two officers moved forward then, because policy is a river that doesn't care who drinks. Laird stepped in, palms out. "They have consents," he said. "My report will say so." He turned his body just enough that the officers read the message beneath the words, "Not today." Counsel made a small, contained gesture, like swatting an invisible fly. "Ms. Williams," he said. addressing the air around her. "You're under arrest for interference." Maya exhaled. It came out smooth. "On what statute?" she asked. He named one, Ames, who had walked in quietly, documents in hand, recited the carve-outs louder. "Emergency aid exception," he said. "Case law on Good Samaritans. City ordinance on bystander assistance. Pick your embarrassment." It didn't stop the cuffs. Metal touched bone. The sound was smaller than movies made it. Sloane's eyes flashed and then cooled. Ramirez started forward and stopped herself with a breath. Maya didn't fight. She kept her head up. She looked over the lobby, a field of plastic chairs and damp coats, and kids relearning air, and found the boy from the first minute. He grinned with a mouth still edged in blue and lifted the inhaler like a trophy. Sloane's phone buzzed in her palm. She glanced, then showed Ames without word. The deadman had fired. The packet of printer dots and ethics forms had gone to 3 outlets with different owners, and one state senator who liked microphones. Kerwin's donor tree had sprouted on the internet in neat, ugly branches. "Hubris," Ames said softly, as if introducing an old colleague. They walked Maya toward the door. Laird kept pace on her left, not touching, not far. The lobby held its breath and then let it go. Outside, the rain had softened to mist. The air tasted like steel and something clean. At the threshold, she saw it on the windowsill. A single blue inhaler, forgotten or planted by the day. A drip slid from the frame and landed on the plastic with a click like a metronome resetting. She smiled at the small, stubborn thing. The officer bagged it for evidence out of habit. The plastic crinkled. The red exit sign threw its color into the bag and made the blue look purple for a second you'd swear you imagined. They booked her fast. Prints, a camera flash that burned white across her pupils, a form that asked if she wanted medical attention like it was a trick. The holding cell smelled of bleach and old stories. Fluorescence hummed too loud to ignore. On the bench, a woman in a parka kept her eyes shut and counted off seconds under her breath, as if time would behave if named. Maya sat with her hands in her lap and listened for her own breathing. In, hold, out. The rhythm made a room in her chest where the fear could move without breaking things. A door rattled open. Laird stood there with a clipboard and a take-out coffee he hadn't touched. "Arraignment in an hour," he said. "Sloane's downstairs." Ames filed 2 motions and a sermon. "Kerwin," she asked. "On TV." He said. He found a flag to stand in front of. They lit her through corridors that narrowed, then widened. The geometry of control. The courthouse hallway had marble that held the day's weather damp, metallic. Reporters clustered near the double doors. A bailiff kept them where a line of blue tape told them to stay. Phones lifted and blinked like minnows. Ames met her at the anteroom. "Tie a shade looser than regulation." "They overreached," he said, voice pitched for her alone. "We push the emergency aid carve-out. We argue necessity. We show the consent trail and the hashes. We make this about a lobby full of air." Sloane handed Maya a small, sealed envelope. "From Carly," she said. Printer dots traced to a deputy's home office. The dead man triggered a second tear. "It's ugly in a way that's useful." Maya slid the envelope into her jacket pocket. The paper was warm from Sloane's hand. She felt the weight it didn't have. The judge wore fatigue like an accessory. Arraignments were lines on a conveyor belt. This one had cameras. He looked over his glasses at the stack of filings on his bench, then at Maya, then at the county seal, as if asking it a question. "Counsel," he said. The prosecutor did the thing where he made contrition sound like principle. "Your Honor, the state recognizes the sensitive context," he began, "but maintains that Ms. Williams interfered with hospital operations." in a manner that saved lives, Amos said, not bothering to rise fully to be seen. With signed consents in a declared code orange, in a public lobby where emergency exception applies, the judge lifted a palm. I'm not hearing the closing, he said. I'm setting terms. Sloane stood. We request ROR, she said. No bail, protective order on evidence, and a hearing on suppression of any fruits of an overbroad warrant. The prosecutor tried pained. We request surrender of passport and an order enjoining Ms. Williams from any further unauthorized. Speaking to parents, Sloane said, practicing medicine without. She didn't practice medicine, Amos said. She practiced oxygen. The judge exhaled through his nose, a sound like a radiator giving up. Passport surrendered, he said. Roar. No contact with minor patients without a licensed clinician present on premises. Evidentiary hearing Friday. I'm not here to be your press office. A murmur popped and died. The gavel didn't fall because there wasn't one. The clerk called the next number. They led her out a side door because the cameras had their own geometry too. In the hallway, Ramirez leaned against a column, jacket buttoned to hide the lack of a badge. She had circles under her eyes deep enough to keep secrets. You did fine, she said. I stood there, Maya said. That's sometimes what fine is. Ramirez said, you stood where they tell people like us not to. Carly was there too, breathless from stares, hair up in a knot held with a pencil. She thrust her phone at Sloane, who took it like evidence. A new story had bloomed, scans of ethics, forms annotated in red, a donor chart, mapping arrows from a device distributor to a shell, to an advocacy council that bore Kerwin's name in a serif font no one used unless they had a lot to hide. An internal email thread showed a deputy requesting off-site printing given page count, and the tiny yellow microdots in the margins sang like a choir if you knew the tune. They printed their secret at home, Carly said, equal parts joy and fury. The dots give us the model and serial of the printer. We got the purchase receipts through a FOIA a month ago for a different case. It lines up. Ames's mouth did an uncharacteristic curve. Chain of custody is a jealous god, he said. Press conference, Sloane said. 2 blocks over. Community center. We keep it about breath and paper. We don't name the deputy. We name the pattern. They walked the city like a small migration. The air had that post-rain glassiness that makes everything too sharp. At a crosswalk, a kid in a Spider-Man hoodie tugged his mother's sleeve and pointed at Maya. The mother offered a nod that fit a lifetime into the space between chin and shoulder. Inside the center, folding chairs filled fast. Volunteers handed out water and tissues because people always needed both. Laird hovered at the back, hands set on his belt, not like a cop, but like someone holding himself in place. Sloane took the mic. Some of you were there yesterday, she said. You know what breath sounds like when it returns. She held up a single sheet. This is a printer page. Those tiny yellow flecks are not decoration. They're the printer's diary. They tell us when and where a page was born. The state's warrant for our servers was drafted on a printer sitting in a private home belonging to a person with a financial relationship to a company that profits when our work fails. She let the quiet stand until it could hold weight. We're not alleging, we're showing. A projector splashed the dots large on a screen. Uncanny constellations on a white night. Carly walked them through without jargon. Each model has a scatter pattern. Think of it like a fingerprint. But in Morse, we matched it to the serial number from a warranty database we acquired lawfully. That number is registered to an address not listed on any state equipment inventory. A hand shot up, so they cheated. They broke their own rules. Carly said, "We all saw what happens when rules are used as a weapon. This is when we use them as a mirror." Ames laid out the filings they'd make. And the filings they already had. "We'll seek sanctions," he said, "not because we like paper, but because paper is how you force an apology to count." Maya spoke last. She didn't have notes. "I'm not here to be a symbol," she said. "I'm here because a boy held a blue inhaler like a trophy, because a mother signed her name with a shaking hand and the lines steadied, because we will not normalize the sound of a child gasping in a lobby while men argue about fonts." She felt the room breathe in one long, collective intake. After, a woman approached with a folder tied in ribbon. "For you," she said. "My grandfather was a typesetter. He said ink never forgets." Inside were clippings, articles about other women who stood in doorways they were told to leave, grainy photos of nurses on picket lines, a court notice from 1978, where a judge used the word compassion like it belonged in statute. Outside, sirens dopplered past, a city inhaling and exhaling in steel. Laird fell into step beside Maya. "Body cam's public record in a week," he said. "You'll want the part where the mother says thank you to the camera." "You'll take heat," she said. He shrugged. "Comes with the belt." Sometimes the belt holds a spine up. They ate sandwiches standing around a folding table because sitting felt presumptuous. Ames left to file. Sloane took a call from a senator who had discovered a conscience now that cameras were involved. Carly went back to the office to back up the backups again because ritual was also armor. Evening slid in gray and slow. On the TV above the center's basketball hoop, Kerwin did his interview under a state seal. He spoke about order and safety, and the slippery slope of chaos when laypeople made medical decisions in panicked lobbies. He looked like he believed his own word. He gestured with a pen that flashed gold. The anchor thanked him and pivoted to a split screen. Ramirez kneeling yesterday beside a child. Sloane's hand covering a lens. Laird's body turned just enough. Then the anchor asked the question no prep memo had answered well. "If the warrant was drafted on an unregistered device," she said, "what assurances can you give about the integrity of this investigation?" Kerwin blinked a second too long. "We will conduct an internal review," he said. His voice didn't carry the room. The room carried itself. Night deepened. The center emptied in waves. Maya found a quiet corner where a vending machine hummed, and a mop left a clean crescent on the linoleum. She pulled the envelope from her pocket and slid the sheets back out. Yellow dots on white. A code that thought it could hide in the margins. She turned the page, and the dots shifted into a pattern she'd swear looked like breath. Her phone buzzed once. From Hospital Council subject. Administrative resolution message. Ms. Williams, to avoid prolonged litigation and in the interest of patient welfare, the hospital proposes the following. You will accept a 6-month prohibition from campus while we revisit protocols. We will reinstate Nurse Ramirez with back pay. We will fund an independent community asthma program at your direction off-site. No admission of fault, no press from either side. Sloane read over her shoulder without asking. "They're scared," she said. "It costs." Maya said. "It always does." Sloane said. Maya pictured Ramirez's hands steady on a small sternum. She pictured the boy's grin. She pictured the blue inhaler on the windowsill bagged by habit. Its plastic crinkling like a nervous laugh. She pictured all the lobby doors that would open or close depending on this email. She typed 4 words. Protect the nurse first. She set the phone down and listened to the machine hum. The sound folded into the building, into the city beyond. Laird texted a photo of the inventory receipt from the warrant service with a line, "Your clock still says sex. Suri, might want to plug it back in." Carly sent a link to a repository where the printer decoder lived now, open and forked 10 times in an hour. Inheritance, she wrote. Ames replied to all. Meeting with judge at 9 for sanctions. Wear shoes you can stand in. Maya closed her eyes and saw the lobby again. Then the cell, then the courtroom's tired wood. The days bent together into a shape that felt like a lung. She walked home in air that tasted of damp stone and bus exhaust and hot pretzel carts. In her apartment, she set an inhaler. The spare she always kept on the windowsill. Condensation beaded on the glass and slid down into the plastic cap, a tiny, slow metronome. She didn't try to stop. The city breathed around her. In, hold, out. Somewhere, a printer ran out of yellow. Somewhere, a deputy drafted a resignation he wouldn't send. Somewhere, a boy slept through the night. She stood in the dark kitchen and waited for her chest to follow the rhythm back to itself. The hum of the refrigerator found the pitch of the streetlight buzz. A train under the avenue exhaled like a sleeping animal. "Okay," she said to the room. It wasn't courage, it was a vow. Beyond the glass, the red glow of a distant exit sign reflected off the inhaler cap, turning the blue a color no code had named. It held there, then faded, then held again. In the end, Maya's story isn't just about fighting a broken system, it's about remembering that silence, however safe it feels, is never neutral. The story reminds us that real change begins the moment someone chooses to stand where they've been told not to, even when their voice shakes. Justice, dignity, and compassion are not grand gestures. They are small, deliberate acts, showing up for one another, refusing to look away, holding our ground when it would be easier to fold. Life will always test what we believe in. The world has its Kerwin's people who hide behind rules, profit, or pride, and it has its Mayas, those who quietly keep the flame of decency alive when the air grows thin. The message is simple but deep. Truth doesn't need to shout. It needs to endure. Gold fears no fire, as the saying goes, and the people who walk through that fire with grace show us what it means to live with integrity. This story calls us to notice the injustices that hide in plain sight, to speak even when our voice is small, and to protect those whose breath, literal or metaphorical, is being taken away. Maybe the lesson isn't to be fearless, but to be faithful to the truth, to one another, to the quiet belief that decency still matters. If this story moved you, share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever witnessed or lived through a moment when speaking up made all the difference? I'd love to hear it. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more stories that challenge, comfort, and remind us what we're capable of. Wishing you peace tonight, a calm kind of courage, the kind that breathes even after the storm has passed.